I've made my fair share of group chats before. I've accidentally added the wrong person to a group chat before, okay? But I usually fix it. Because before I talk shit in a group chat, before I release any classified information, before I say anything that I'm not supposed to, I'll check it. And that's just me. That's just me, like, not wanting to get caught. That's just me out of my own selfish interests. You're gonna tell me that the director of national intelligence, that the director of the CIA, that the secretary of defense, the secretary of state, the vice president, the chief of staff, that all of these people, none of them thought to double check who was in the fucking group chat before releasing classified information? The Trump administration accidentally texted me its war plans. Before I outline exactly how fucking brain dead you would have to be for this story to play out, let me just take a moment to show you the Republican Party that this is coming from, okay? Sarah Longwell over at The Bulwark posted this lovely thread yesterday filled with Trump officials demanding that Hillary Clinton pay for her shitty private email server.
When I'm president of the United States, neither she nor any of these other people are going to be above the law, whether it's her or Eric Holder for what he did on Fast and Furious or any of these other folks. People are going to be held accountable if they broke the laws of this country. This president obviously is willing to protect his political cronies, but we're going to hold people accountable. Nobody is above the law, not even Hillary Clinton, even though she thinks she is.
2 words, top secret.
Right. Yeah.
Before it was servers, it was classified. It was sort of this amorphous idea that maybe it was wrong. Everyone knows what top secret means. I've had a top secret clearance. It's big red flashing letters, top secret. You know when you're looking at something that's top secret or dealing with it. In this case, the public will resonate with that. Hey, if you're hiding that on a private server, that's a very real problem,
well, and
likely criminal charges to follow.
And the other thing is perjury. Pete Hegseth, what's your response to this leak? What's your response to this claim? Sir, with tears in my eyes?
Can you share how your information about war plans against the Houthis in Yemen was shared with a journalist in The Atlantic? And were those details classified?
You're talking about a deceitful and highly discredited so-called journalist who's made a profession of peddling hoaxes time and time again, to include the hoaxes of Russia, or the fine people on both sides hoax, or suckers and losers hoax. So this is the guy that peddles in garbage.
He looks so pissed off. This is embarrassingly pathetic. Coming from the Secretary of Defense, this big, strong, tough guy that's bringing back meritocracy in the fucking military, he looks pathetic. This is the face of an abuser when they get caught in a lie. I can just tell he hits his wife off of this claim. I don't need the vetted affidavit coming from his sister-in-law. You can tell. Look at his defensiveness. Look at his rewriting of history. Look at his immediate resort to the most fucking tired of stereotypes. Yeah, you're gonna call the Jewish editor-in-chief a peddler? Real fucking original, Pete Hegseth. Director of National Intelligence, not even 2 weeks ago, saying any authorized release of classified information is a violation of the law and will be treated as such.
Mishandling classified information is still a violation of the Espionage Act. It started with Hillary Clinton. It has continued without accountability. Right. People haven't paid a price for that, and that's one of the reasons Bill Barr and John Durham and folks need to really focus on that, because there does need to be accountability there.
See, this isn't even espionage. This is actual just fucking brain-dead Neanderthals being in charge of the government. Tuesday, March 11th, I received a connection request on Signal from a user identified as Michael Waltz. Why are we using Signal? Signal is an open source encrypted messaging service popular with journalists and others who seek more privacy than other text messaging services are capable of delivering. The government has, government approved chat services and encryption networks for these things. You don't need to go to a publicly available app or device, as Donald Trump says, because he doesn't know the fucking difference between an app or a device. We'll look into it, Trump said, but everybody else seems to be using it. It seems to be the #1 used device or app, whatever you want to call it. This is the gerontocracy at work. Our president doesn't know the difference between a fucking device, or an application. Like, or a fucking application. He doesn't know the difference. After receiving the text related to the Houthi PC group, I consulted a number of colleagues. We discussed the possibility of these tests were part of disinformation. The next day, things got even stranger. After reading this chain, I recognized that this conversation possessed a high degree of verisimilitude. This means validity or truth. I had to Google it. The texts in their word choice and arguments sounded as if they were written by the people who had purportedly sent them, or by a particularly adept AI text generator. It was the next morning when the story became truly bizarre. At 1:48, Michael Waltz had provided the group with an update, quote, "amazing job," followed by a fist, an American flag, and a fire emoji. The Signal group chat, I concluded, was almost certainly real, having come to this realization, one that seemed nearly impossible only hours before I removed myself from the Signal group. He is so much stronger than me, because I wouldn't have. I would have stayed in there. I'm nosy as fuck. I would have stayed in there for as long as I possibly could have, would have been screenshotting it all, would have created this entire master doc of classified information. Like, this guy's got real journalistic integrity, man. He even went so far as to email everyone in the group chat. He emailed all of the officials. Tulsi Gabbard, JD Vance, Michael Walls, John Ratcliffe. He emails them, all of them, and asks them, was this real? Chat, is this real? At which point, Brian Hughes takes the opportunity to clarify. The ongoing success of the Houthi operation demonstrates that there were no threats to troops or national security. I hate that this has to be said, but anytime you have a civilian who is not cleared, who doesn't have clearance, who hasn't gone through the proper channel, anytime you have a civilian accessing military information, that is a threat to your troops and your national security. Doesn't matter that they didn't do anything with that. Doesn't matter that he wasn't texting back in the group chat. Doesn't matter that he left immediately after he realized that it was real. That is a threat to national security. Do you know Russia is able to hack into Signal? You know China is able to hack into Signal? Why the fuck are we discussing military plans on Signal? William Martin, a spokesperson for Vance, said that despite the impression created by these texts, the vice president is fully aligned with the president. So JD Vance wants to take this opportunity not to reassure the American people that we are going through the proper security channels to deal with security data breaches like this, not to launch an investigation into anything. No, we need to clarify to the American people that we're still on Donald Trump's side. That's what's important right now. Donald Trump, who by the way said, quote, "It's just something that can happen. You can even prepare for it, and it can happen. We always want to use the best technology. This was the best technology for the moment." The reason why they used Signal was because Michael Walls had set the chats to delete after 1 to 4 weeks, depending on the time that the chats were sent. So they used Signal, not the best technology for the moment, not because everybody else seems to be using it, and it seems to be the number one used device or app, which he doesn't know the difference between, but they're using it to get around the permanent record of their military plans. Why would the administration so focused on transparency and why would the administration so focused on transparency to the American people after the nasty Joe Biden was ruling everything with the deep state and lying to everyone? Why would that administration go out of their way to use a messaging app that deletes the messages? It's used a lot by the military, and I think successfully, but sometimes somebody can get onto those things. That's one of the prices when you pay when you're not sitting in the Situation Room with no phones on, which is always the best, frankly. Trump, in a phone interview, stood by Walls, claimed, Trump said, quote, "It was one of Michael's people on the phone. A staffer had his number on there." And Trump defended his national security team by claiming the situation was the only glitch in 2 months, and it turned out not to be a serious one. If this were happening in any other country, this would be a government crisis that you had a national security advisor so incompetent to include an unclear journalist in classified information? Now they're trying to say that none of it was classified. Now they're trying to say that there was absolutely zero classified information. The article can't even publish all of the details because there is an active intelligence officer in the group chat whose identity could be compromised if it were published. What do you mean there was no classified information? The plan included precise information about the weapons, packages, targets, and timing. What do you mean it wasn't classified information?
Your reaction to the story in The Atlantic that said that some of your top cabinet officials and aides had been discussing very sensitive material through Signal and included an Atlantic reporter for that. What is your response to that?
I don't know anything about it. I'm not a big fan of The Atlantic. To me, it's a magazine that's going out of business. I think it's not much of a magazine, but I know nothing about it. You're saying that they had what?
They were using Signal to coordinate on sensitive materials and
Having to do with what? Having to do with what? What were they talking about?
with the Houthis.
The Houthis, you mean the attack on the Houthis?
Right.
Well, it couldn't have been very effective because the attack was very effective, I can tell you that. I don't know anything about it. You're telling me about it for the first time. Anybody else?
This was after the White House had already confirmed the validity of the group chat, but before Donald Trump took the position of just quadrupling down and saying that there was absolutely nothing wrong, actually going so far as to defend Mike Walls, saying he has learned his lesson and he's a good man. If this had happened during the Biden administration, he would have gotten impeached. Genuinely, truly. Why are these people not getting impeached? Why are they not getting removed? Not only do we have a consumer of Russian propaganda as the director of national intelligence, not only do we have the largest government contractor deeply entrenched in China's economy, not only do we have a United States president that is sending COVID tests and having illegal phone calls with Vladimir Putin when he's not in office, not only do we have all of that, but we also have a drunk, alcoholic wife beater in charge of the military casually texting Houthi attack plans to the editor-in-chief of The Atlantic. So it's not a question of if this military will enter a war, if they will enter a trap, if they will have a huge data security breach. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when, especially if no one is fucking getting fired and the president is just defending everyone by saying it wasn't even that big of a deal to begin with. This is a joke. We can't live in a society where the people in power are the ones that are breaking all the rules. You can't go into a police station, punch an officer, and then cry when they fucking try and arrest you. Like, you can't do that. You can't claim that the officer is making up a fucking story about you every time you get caught. It's pathetic. It's sad. It's pathetic. And it's only working because people are letting it. The second that everyone stops buying into this bullshit, the second that it all goes away. Oh my God. And it's so pathetic seeing Trump supporters try and defend this. It's sad. How much more water are you guys gonna hold? What does he have to do? Do people have to die in order for you to realize that this guy's a dipshit? Like,